Hello humans, hello humans. It's Saturday morning, Saturday, February 3rd, around 9 o'clock. Very sad day for me, going into inland to pick up Boris's remains. He didn't make it. They were saying it's lepto. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, sad day. Okay, all kinds of things going on. We're reaching, getting into serious hyper-novelty here, where stuff is just spilling out all over. And we're going to see the real breakthrough and the breakdown of the paradigm here pretty quick over these next couple of months. So we're going to hit a crisis point on February 18th. We've got another couple of them coming up in March, and then a couple of very large projected release language appearances in first part of April, first week of April. This is going to be quite difficult for all the normies, because they're going to have to, any of those that are still clinging on to normality as it used to exist, are going to have to come to terms with what we're going to be going through here, and the lack of their establishment authority, right? So we're seeing a lot of the people fall away, the media is collapsing. Basically, it's running out of steam and running out of money, and the only reason that we have the mainstream media is because of government subsidies, is what it amounts to. And once the government hits this next economic wall, which will probably be around the 18th of this month, February, between the 18th and the 28th, there's this like 10-day window that we're going to have a lot of building tension, release language, a lot of building tension, release language, day after day after day, such that I think that the release language will reach the levels that had been forecast in our 81-point delta over the usual variance. A lot of it is going to be economic in terms of the initial prompt or spark that gets things moving. But the fallout of all of that will be quite dissipative, right? It'll be spreading. So we'll have some impacts ripple through the economy and through these kind of through activities that people are doing, businesses, etc. But it looks like the majority of the impact is going to come from what we might think of as static money, which would be retirement systems, government funding, all of these kind of things taking a big hit. Now, at some point after February 18th, and it's probably occurring right now, the global revolution beginning in Europe will go to the next phase. Okay, and so in the next phase, you'll see real fucktards, real numbnut fucktards battle their own populace, like Macron. He'll probably call in the military, and then he's going to have a big problem because the military is going to revolt. Okay, they're not going to go along with this shit. This is all leading to, and will participate in, this U.S. centric economic thing that's going to be happening here February 18th and beyond. When that happens, the ripple-on effect for global revolution will be pretty substantial. So I'm expecting something in the way of like a giant derivatives crash or repudiation or major money center bank going totally bust and them having to thrash around just trying to find somebody to take it over, that sort of thing, right? So an economic crisis or an economic situation that evolves into a crisis, and further as they attempt to deal with the crises part of it, that is to say the powers that be, engender a whole series of events from their actions in terms of unexpected consequences. So they'll do something here in the United States that will cause our economic system to interact with the European economic system in a new way, probably around the derivatives going bust or something similar, right? Some level of dysfunction is being forecast that's going to affect the ability of the EU governments to continue on the Mother Weffer's plan. So I'm expecting, their economic problems will cause them not to be able to pay for migrants anymore, right? This kind of thing. Hang on a second. And the fallout of that is going to ripple through into all different kinds of things relative to countries within Europe. So we'll see European countries go back to their old borders and they'll repudiate the EU, right? So the European Union is going to die. And it's going to take all of the banking system and all of these unelected fucktards with it. And it's going to be quite chaotic, okay? Really fucking chaotic for the normies to see these things just like basically wither and fall away. The impacts on the EU economically are going to go a big distance towards triggering lots of violence in Europe as the migrants are pushed out, as we're going to go through an ethnic cleansing where all of the people that had been brought in by the WEF are going to be facing some serious stiff opposition, and they will decide they better beat feet and get the fuck out. That it is not tenable. They won't be able to secure a foothold and make it their own. You will see some of these guys, some of these migrants attempting to take over chunks of countries. And it's going to get really fucking interesting, right? Hang on a second. As the crisis starts developing economically, you'll start seeing, so around February 18th, you'll start seeing some of the earlier signs that we're going to have major political and cultural and racial crises. Now, this is what the WEF wants, but they're in a seriously bad place now, and I think that they realize they're in this seriously bad place. The response to from the WEF is sort of predictable, but there's some areas that it wouldn't be wise to speculate. But I do expect that we'll have a sharp and basically to the limit of the energy, power, political will that they have. So they'll go all in on their response, trying to curtail what they see as a near fatal attack on them relative to what's coming out. And it's going to get, like I say, it's going to get ugly. There's going to be a lot of violence. There'll be a lot of violence in the U.S. The economic aspects of what's going to happen here will derail the Biden regime and throw the nation into chaos. We'll get economic chaos that will exacerbate everything, because once the economic chaos goes off, then there's going to be a lot of people that will just say, no, I'm not going along with you. You have no authority. you can't bribe me anymore, blah, 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 so go fuck yourself. And like I say, expect this to start in on the February 18th and build for 10 days, go build, release, build, release, build, release for 10 days. And then we'll get into March, and we'll have a series of escalating building tension periods that have big release periods. So it'll be much more, it won't be so choppy. It'll be a building for a couple of days and then a big release, and then building for a couple of days and then big release. And this is how March is going to be. And throughout March, we'll get an idea of the direction that we'll all be going in as a result of the response, or the reaction and then the response from the mother weffers to their particular crises that are occurring. I'm expecting in March that we'll start seeing a lot of the normie population, now that the splits have happened, and in February here we'll have, end of February, we'll have the couple of the major media companies go 100% crap out, and we'll get like sort of a shock going through the establishment supporting normies that are still out there, and we'll see a lot of them fall off. And then there will be this, during that period of time, so February, and from February 18th all the way through March, probably through April and well into June, we're going to have this reaction within the alternative media to the developing events of the death of the mainstream media. Because the alternative media is going to be taking up the slack. We'll be getting all different kinds of people in there, and we're going to have a generalized brouhaha as everybody tries to sort shit out. So I'm expecting that we'll have lots and lots and lots of infighting in the alternative media over these next few weeks, as we all start really cleaning up our act, okay? So I expect a lot of people to get a lot of shit. All right, so in some of the specifics, there's this guy, Dr. Z. He's got a Rumble channel, Xylophacy or something like philosophy, only it's Xylophacy. And there's also this kid named Nick Alver, and this other guy. And these guys are have a three-way podcast thing, and they've been raking this dude Phil Godlewski over the coals for being a pedo and for being a scam artist, right? This guy is Phil Godlewski is just a real piece of work, right? He thinks he's going on about all of this bullshit about flat Earth. He's never read the Bible. He's running around with crosses. He's misquoting it. He doesn't recognize the vagaries and vagarity of the various different versions of the Bible, yada, yada, yada. And so he's trying to use Bible stuff to support a flat Earth viewpoint. And this guy really, he's a lying LARPer piece of shit. All right, he's just another Corey Goode that failed to recognize, learn anything from Corey Goode. I don't even know if he's aware of Corey Goode, right? But so Godlewski is a LARPer. Godlewski claims to be part of the Q team or BQ or work with Trump directly, and that he keeps saying he's gonna be a major political advisor in the Trump administration and in the intelligence business, and he's going to segue right on over there, and he's got all of these stupid-ass lawsuits that he's doing, just like Corey Goode, right? So Corey Goode lied for 4 or 5 or 6 years on Gaia TV, saying he had been a secret space program guy and had been to space and had time traveled twice, going back 20 years each time so that he could work and come back and do more work for the secret space program for another 20 years. All of this kind of shit, right? A bunch of crap that can't happen, that is 100% bullshit. Hang on. There we go. Long drive, getting set up. And so he did all of this, and during that period of time, I was calling him out. I was saying, this is horseshit. Your language is bullshit. You're a liar. You're LARPer. And the fucker sued me, right? And I'll get into that in a bit. But so I win my lawsuit against him. And I get kicked out of the lawsuit. Everybody else is in there for an additional couple of years. It's a terrible federal lawsuit. Corey Good has to admit under oath that he lied about all that shit on Gaia, that he was never in space or any of this kind of stuff. It's all made up. And but he sat there and was a bold-faced liar to the camera for years and years and years. And he fucked over David Wilcock. He fucked over Gaia. Caused all kinds of problems. He's suing everybody. And the hell of it is, if he hadn't sued people, he would still be able to be out there doing crap, right? So in his mind, whatever, these people that are the large giant liars, the LARPers, like Corey Good and Phil Godlewski, for whatever reason, are psychologically propelled to out themselves, to confront all of this and out themselves. This is just the way of truth and fact in reality. These guys are simply not able internally to maintain this for all of their lives. And so he's got to deal with it. And so he forced himself into a situation where he is dealing with it by suing everybody and then having in the court case have it proved that he was wrong, he lied, blah, blah, blah. Nobody did anything wrong. All of us guys that said he was a LARPer and a liar and full of shit were quite correct. And you should not, you shouldn't sue people for that. Okay, so the Phil Godlewski guy is also having to face this, right? Had a relationship with a 15-year-old. She was actually 14 years old when he started getting involved with her. Then he has a relationship. He gets called out by it. He gets arrested. He serves 30 days or something house arrest sentence and has a ankle monitor for like 4 or 5 months or something because he pled guilty to corruption of a minor, not just corruption of a minor. That's all they could get him on, because he was able to coerce the victim into not cooperating with the law enforcement. And these guys in this, Dr. Z and Nick Alvar, whatever the hell, discuss it. And Nick made a movie about it. It's called, the greatest scammer on earth or whatever, which is like, you're giving him way too much credit. This guy actually has scammed a lot of fucking money. He's buying viewers, okay? So he's like Charlie Ward, he buys viewers. So you can't trust the number of views on any one of his videos. And there are ways to ascertain that he's got maybe around 12 to 15,000 people that follow him. So it's kind of like Corey Good with his cult. This is a Godlewski cult. I've run into these cultists that are coming after me because I said that Godlewski was full of shit in his linguistic pronouncements about flat Earth, and that he didn't have a fucking clue as to what he was talking about relative to the translation of the Hebrew into English, right? The nature of the etymology of the words and their evolution over time in terms of meaning. A lot of the flat earthers, by the way, use the word firmament. They take that word from the Old Testament. That is a badly translated word. The word really is exclusion zone, okay, or expanse. So now, I won't get into all of this stuff, but it derives from a Hebrew verb that means to beat out, to exclude, to flatten out, to drive out. And you just can't help your aversion to it and trying to get the fuck away from it. Nor could you come back through it once it's established. Anyway, though, so crap. Sorry about that. Godlewski has, he's like all these other flat earthers. He has a bad grasp of what the fuck's going on relative to language. Now, he's admittedly got a shitload of problems now that these people are starting to out him. Jordan Sather, the guy that I'd fought with who was part of Corey Good's cult, he's also outing Nick Godlewski. Godlewski's a real piece of work, a real shithead. Theoretically, he's made so many millions and he's bought a shitload of property. Now, you can't trust this guy. You can't trust this guy for anything he says. And so he's probably getting into serious puffery. And but he went from $250 in the bank and a $21,000 bad check charge to having theoretically like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 properties that he's bought from money he's scammed off of all of these, getting these people into these gold investments and this kind of thing, none of which worked out right. These are all scams. These things that he's promoting is just a way to take your money. One of the guys lost one of his fans, and that was really a motivation for Dr. Z and Nick to go after this other guy. I forget, I don't think I ever really knew his name. But anyway, so Godlewski's got issues. He's got people on his case, and they're going to continue on his case because there's at this stage he can't do anything. He threatens to sue. He has an attorney that draws up papers as though there's going to be a suit, and they file it in a court where it's not pertinent, so they know it'll get thrown out. This is a sort of a scam filing to try and intimidate people to not saying things about Nick or about Phil Godlewski. Now, I have problems with Nick, okay? Nick is the guy that made the movie about Phil, and I don't know how good the movie is. I haven't seen it. I don't know if it's even out yet. But the thing is, Nick has been on, as I understand it, I haven't found it. I just saw a reference to it. But Nick's been on videos with Charlie Ward. And Nick and this other guy, do not apparently see Charlie as big of a pedo as Phil. But in my way of thinking, Charlie's much worse because Charlie was a procurer for Jimmy Savile. And we don't know who else he procured kids for, right? And he changes his tune later on to say they were young women and there were only 2 of them, as opposed to him saying there were 10 to 15 of these, he'd say under, and then change it to young women, right? But they were underage girls. And he was a procurer. He groomed them for Jimmy Savile, and enjoyed all of the perks of being, associated with the Royals, and then eventually because Jimmy Savile was associated with the Royals, and then eventually, at some point, Charlie Ward gets into the money laundering business for his royal customers, and he's real proud of that. And his fucktard supporters are real proud of that, like this Jan Halper Hayes. She's a real fucking nut job. I think she's another LARPer. I do not think she is in any way employed by the DOD. I think she's lying about all of that. I think she's lying about her association with the task force. And I think she's full of shit. I think she's just another Phil Godlewski, another Corey Good, another LARPer. And you got to watch out for these guys. This is the kind of thing that will be coming up over these next few months as we really get into this cresting of the awakening into normie land, and we start losing our connection with the mainstream media. They start falling away. Nobody's going to pay for them anymore. The government gets hit by basically bad money. Really soundly, seriously, and the bad money starts screwing over all of the plans, and the bad money is what supports the mainstream media and all of the tools of the oppressors. And so we'll see a lot of that just go. It'll be quite spectacular. It'll take a number of months, and it's going to depend on where you are as to how much of this impacts you directly initially. It will impact everybody, but it may take a while for the big dramatic effects to come rolling into your life. Other than, you having to look at it online. But it's going to be spectacular, okay? It's going to be spectacular. A lot of people are really afraid of what's coming. So let me stop and let me see where I want to go with this. Okay, so I do have a problem with Nick. He needs to man up and address the issue of Charlie Ward in his way of thinking. If you're going to call Phil a pedo, you've got to call Charlie Ward a pedo. If you're going to get on Phil Doe's case, you got to get on Charlie Doe's case, right? In my way of thinking. All right, so the economic problems that we're going to be getting into here in February are going to be so severe that they'll keep rolling on through March, April, May. They'll still keep trying to plug the holes that by they, I mean the government, the central banks, they'll still keep trying to plug all these holes through March, April, May. We're going to have a biggish kind of an issue in April as people reach this particular threshold of understanding of things, and the woo people will start being more aggressive in their actions from that point on, because they'll seriously know they're winning. This will be the case because of all the new subscribers on woo people's channels, that sort of thing, right? And so the woo people will start getting more resources thrown their way, just as we see the powers that be, the Elohim worship cult and all of their ilk, trying to corral and control these woo people influencers, the non-mainstream influencers, right? Non-establishment supporting influencers, or right now they're out there trying to corral them. I've had several people come and talk to me. Usually they know before they come and talk to me that it's not going to be a go, that they listen to my shit and they know, no, we don't want this raspy bastard in with our group. But they are trying to get groups, they're trying to get networks, they call them, and they're very generous. They put people on a monthly stipend kind of a thing, and then they tell them what to promote. And soon they'll tell them what to say in the content, and then it'll be too late. These people will be compromised, they'll like the money, they'll be ensconced in it, and they will toe the line. We already see these networks. Now, the interesting part for me is that a lot of these networks are forming around Jewish core groups of people that are all Jewish. The Jews are much easier to control and organize than the other people, than the other non-Jew alternative media. Okay, just because Jews are inculcated to this cultural thing to be organized, to be included in these groups. Also, by the way, I'm getting a lot of shit from Jews in terms of they're turning me in for supervision or examination by so they're dumping my name into particular areas for FBI, for Department of Homeland Security, bunches of these guys. And I haven't done anything new, so they're doing something new. They're trying to get ahead of something, right? And trying to get me out of the picture if they can. It doesn't really impact me very much. I don't do anything that makes me vulnerable to these people. And mostly when they, like when the FBI shows up, I tell them, get off my property, get the fuck out of here. I don't answer questions. They ask a bunch of questions. Every time I respond, I don't answer questions, get off my property, get the fuck out of here. And they will. They'll just go away. They don't have a lot of oomph. They're not, they've got to have giant crowds of people with lots of weapons to feel secure in really coming and hassling you. A couple of FBI guys in a car SUV that shows up. It's like, okay, you guys are 6 foot tall, but you're on the other side of that gate, and we'll see what happens, right? So basically, fuck you all, get off my property, I don't answer questions. And it works. The hassle I'm getting from these people is not going to shut me up. Even so, I'm not a great irritant to them at that level. Some of them recognize what the fuck I'm doing with my strategies, and that's got them all weirded out. But mostly the others are too stupid to recognize it, and so they're not really as freaked out as they should be, in my opinion. So I'm seeing the effects now of people that are anticipating a radically different future. Okay, I know lots of people with money. I've worked for lots of these guys, writing algorithms for them, or doing due diligence for them, or this kind of thing, right? So I don't launder money, but corporations could come to me and they say, we've got XYZ problem with this kind of technology. We need to do this, and then I'll look at their goal and say, no, I'm not willing to do that. You people are full of shit. You don't really want to do that. What you want is this other thing. If you want me for that, I'd be up for it, but no, I'm not going to do your stuff here. So I will be a change agent in technology organizations that require it. But I don't really enjoy that work. It's not particularly fun or anything. It's satisfying to have the organizations heal themselves, so to speak, and get back to some real productivity and so on. But as I say, it's not really my forte. The technology is. Anyway, so because of this, though, I've worked for a lot of people that have lots of money. And some of these guys are contacting me because of my local knowledge, right? And so here's the situation. I happen to live in an area that's all tourist houses, rental houses, overnight rentals, vacation rentals, this kind of thing. Some of the people I've worked for in the past, who are out of King County up here, Seattle, Everett, that kind of thing, they anticipate a different future. And so some of them have contacted me just to get a sort of a heads up on local activity relative to rental houses and real estate. And they know I'm into real estate. I've got a number of properties. I don't rent any. I've got a resource property in the sense of some timberland. I've got a house I live in here on the beach, and a couple of other properties here and there that I've accumulated over time. And they'll contact me and we'll have little chats. And so I've been talking to some of these fellows, and they are interested. They have a view now of certain things happening over the rest of this year that will impact how they deal with their money going forward, their investments. So that, big money can't let dollars just sit in a bank, because at that point they're just being eroded away by the bank fees and so on. They'll never make enough in interest to pay for the fact that to compensate for the fact that the money is idle. And so they call me up, and I learn that their view, and it's from more than one group, right? So it's becoming something of a little bit of a consensus with some of these money people. And so they are of the opinion that there's going to be a bunch of things that are going to happen, that we will go through a major monetary system crash. And so they're trying to get their money out of the monetary system. Some of them are buying into Bitcoin and so on, but a lot of these guys have done that and they don't want to just start buying Bitcoin and drive the price up, because that would be the effect of trying to convert millions of dollars into Bitcoin. You would just instantly be basically bidding for the Bitcoin against yourself and getting everybody else whipped up. So what they want to do is they want to put it in real estate. Some of these guys are going into, so I've had one guy that I used to work with way back when who got himself involved at a technical level with this corporation. This corporation is deals with energy, and they're looking at energy in an entirely different way. So this group thinks that they want to acquire energy resources in the way of property. And it just so happens along the coast of Washington, we've got vast amounts of natural gas and oil. It's never been tapped. It was found in the 1920s and the 1930s. We get in the 40s, a decision was made by the federal government to curtail leases for oil gas drilling along the North Pacific coast. This would be from mid-Oregon all the way up through Washington to the Canadian border. And their thing was at that stage that they wanted to, they didn't want to have this resource available as a target for the Japanese. That was the nominal reason that they said, no, you guys can't drill. You can't do that kind of stuff. Now, bear in mind, all along our coast here, we have natural gas seeping up out of the ground. Same with oil. If you go about, maybe it's an hour and a half north of my house, you go on 101 for a while, and then you'd cut off on one of these state route roads, and you go about a mile and a half, or an hour and a half north of me, you're going to come into this place that's called Oil City. And Oil City literally has sweet crude seeping up out of the ground. There's little ponds and lakes and stuff that get polluted by it. And all along the coast, north and south of me, we get natural gas seeps. They're not wells. You can cap them. Some of them it's just a crack in the rocks that the gas seeps out of, more or less steady. Maybe it's intermittent. Some of it's affected by water, so water in some way gets in there and pressurizes the gas within a cave to the point that the gas is expelled, the water rises, fills the cave, and then it comes out, then it collapses, another void, more gas fills up, and so on. So it's intermittent, these little bursts of natural gas relative to this particular seep. Now, I've actually looked at purchasing some property here that had a natural gas seep, and it was like, ooh, this is kind of cool just to have free natural gas. And I think these guys were they'd set up a tank. This particular property had been a recreational land, and in the 30s and 40s was a camping area, and the camping area was heated, and they had gas lights at night, all driven by free natural gas. They were basically just burning it off. They just stuck a bunch of pipes in there, directed the gas over to lanterns along the little way, lighting all of the camping spots. They let it go at that. They just burned it off. They had free natural gas for cooking your meals, or making hot water for showers and this kind of thing. So it was a pleasant little place. The owner eventually passes, and in the 50s they just kind of shut it down. It just wasn't maintained anymore, and the natural gas was the pipes corroded, and eventually the natural gas is just being released again. And I was going to buy this place and use the natural gas for my own purposes. Because you can use it to run a steam generator. You could use it to run a propane generator and make electricity with it if you wanted. We were thinking about building there. There was just no building site. And so this was before that we made the decision to just build where we're at. Now, I'm still going to do that, but some of my thinking has been changed by talking with these guys that I've worked with in the past, and they're thinking about real estate. So getting back to that, these guys out of Seattle, so I've run into a couple of them. One of them, like I say, is energy focused, and they're running around the area buying up wherever they can get them without letting people know. They're coming out, they're buying little bits of property here and there that they have been able to determine the deed still passes mineral rights, right? So a lot of deeds, when you buy the property, you have no right to any of the shit underneath the ground. You have the right to the ground, and you can build your house on it. You can get water off the place. But if you were to discover diamonds, you're not going to be allowed to dig diamonds off of your property or gold or any of that kind of stuff, because the deed says that somebody retains the ownership of the mineral rights. Okay, it's not you. It's somebody else. And so, it could go back 3 or 4 or 5 times in sales. So way back when, maybe in the 1950s, one of the banks sliced off the mineral rights, and thereafter everybody that's bought the property doesn't have any access to right to exploit minerals on the property. And nowadays, that bank could, even if somebody bought those rights as we go along and aggregated them. So now this company I know of, these guys are out buying little bits of property here and there that still have mineral rights attached to the deeds in order to be able to get at a energy boom that they expect to occur once Trump gets back into office, right? Once we get into this shittery and start officially and start rebuilding the social order or political order. So that's their strategy. And I've been able to advise them on some stuff I've found down in my area. I don't usually get up north up into the oil city. I've done it a little bit. I know of some properties up there that were for sale, and I pointed them at that way, but usually it's more from North Beach south that I've got local knowledge on, especially since I've been crawling around all these properties looking for a solution for our housing issue, which is, it's curious, just coincidental that the county assessor is up at my place trying to get in. He had to send me a letter. And it's like, I'm going to let him in, of course, but everything's gated and there's security systems and all this kind of shit. But I'm going to let him in. But now, when he comes on up, they're going to actually have to downgrade the quality of the structure, because I'm going to be able to point out to him everything that's wrong with the structure that degrades it to the point that I actually have to rebuild. And so, so I'm not going to do the county much good. Tax-wise, I bet you my taxes drop after this. In any event, so we've got people buying property for energy, and then there's another group that wants to buy rental houses. Okay, and they're buying rental houses because they're of the opinion that globally we're going to have, well, they know that it's occurring now. And that is that more and more people are going to be vacationing nearer to home than doing international travel for the next 20 years. And it's going to take us 20 years to rebuild or replace the airline industry. And a lot of the airplanes and the airlines are in a world of hurt economically, and they have no workers, and their workers they're hiring are diversity hires who don't do anything accurately, can't be made to be productive that way. And so the whole thing is deteriorating, the whole airline industry, everything from the diversity, equity, and inclusion fuckers, all of the powerful female crews that they've got and stuff now, right? It's like, okay, guys, but this is all breaking down. You people can't do anything. More flights are canceled than are on time for departure now, and it's almost 2/3 more flights are canceled than make their departure time, their assigned departure time, and it just cascades, right? So it's the system breaking down. And so we're seeing the collapse of the international air traffic, which is what the WEF wanted. That was one of their desired goals. They don't want you fuckers flying around and breathing their air and, using their vacation spots and all of this. And so they've got all this set up, and we're going to have to live through it, right? So it'll take us 20 years to come back to some form of international travel, and we may not be using airplanes when we come back to it, right? Because during this 20 years, we're going to get the zero-point technology released. It's creeping out now in a bunch of different areas. So anyway, these guys that I know, there's maybe, I don't know how many are in their group, but I know 5 of the guys personally that I've worked for in the past that are all in this group to go and buy rental properties, and they're all putting in serious kind of money. So in that sense, so I agree with them on that, right? It's a logical conclusion that if we've got the breakdown of the economic system as well as the travel industry, so to speak, then more people will indeed be vacationing locally. And it would not be a wise idea, for instance, to buy into, big cruise ship lines, right? Because those are supported by the airplane industry. Cruise ships in Florida don't survive on the population from Florida. Most of the people that they haul around on their boats are not Florida residents. They fly to Florida for the purpose of getting on the boat and then going on out and getting sick and that kind of stuff. So anyway, so my guys here are out looking at rental properties, and that's a different kind of a critter, right? These other guys that are into energy solution stuff, they're buying it for what's underneath the property, and if it's a going concern as a rental, that's fine, but they're also buying raw land, and they've got a strategy for sheltering money in the raw land relative to their income, right? Wow. Major road work here, just tons of major road work. Another sign that we're going to be having a lot of people staying local and that sort of thing is you'll see that we're now building out infrastructure into more rural areas at a faster pace than we have in like bunches of years. But we're going to go through an economic boom here for a number of years that will include rebuilding on a serious way all of our infrastructure stuff, and that's going to include the infrastructure that feeds the rental industries, right? Anyway, so thinking about it with these guys and the property and so on, they've got an interesting approach economically, right? Because they know that they're going to buy a property, and so what they're rental house, right? Maybe they're going to buy one of these giant fucking rental houses that 24 people can sleep in. They've got 24 beds in, although it's nominally a 5 or a 6 bedroom house. We have a lot of those around here where they have bedrooms with like 4 sets of bunk beds in them, right? So 8 people in a bedroom kind of a thing for an overnight rental at a beach area. Okay, so these guys are getting into purchasing these things, and the interesting part about this for me was that in talking with them, that they are valuing rental properties against the current price of Bitcoin at the time that they purchase it. So what they're doing is they're basically saying, if we put $1 million into this place, this house might be worth this amount later on, but when we buy it, we're gonna value it at 26.4 Bitcoin, because that's what we could have bought with that $1 million had we not bought this property. And I see where they're going with that, right? Because if there is they have to readjust their mental attitude on all of this. that if there is, or when there is, a major dollar death kind of an event, a major banking system failure, and we start seeing some of the ripple effects within the dollar, at that point, it would not be wise to start or to continue trying to manage your business valuing things in dollars as the dollars are falling. It's going to give you a really wrong sense of what's happening. The inflation, of course, is going to boost the nominal price of that property, but you would never be able to reclaim that property value in dollars. What's happened, and so thinking about it as 26 Bitcoin, then later on when Bitcoin is doubled the price, well, that house then only costs you, 14 Bitcoin. And so, oh yeah, that's a good deal. You could sell that property now for 14.5 Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin is worth so much more that you're getting a so to speak, a profit on the fact that you'd put in the 26 Bitcoin to get it. It's a really wonky situation to try and think about, because there's not going to be absolutes. At some point, the 14 Bitcoin may end up being 1.4 million, right? $100,000 per Bitcoin or something like that. At that point, then you would have made more nominal dollars if you had bought the Bitcoin as opposed to the house, because now you've got to go to the problem of transferring that house, selling that house, and getting it back into Bitcoin, because you're not going to be getting it back into dollars. And so it becomes an interesting mental exercise to keep your mind focused and to be able to get some understanding of the relative profitability of what your actions are when you don't have an absolute metric like dollars to be able to plot this stuff against. Boy, I sure hope that makes sense. So it's going to be really, really, really confusing for people, right? And it's going to be very, very, very difficult to get this situation all straight in your head as to when you're actually, so to speak, making a profit on things. A lot of guys are not. So the people that are doing the energy stuff, they're convinced that when Trump comes back, we're going to have an energy boom here in the United States, and they want to participate in it. And they're doing things now, which I find very helpful at a political level, because these guys are putting money behind non-liberal, non-Wefonian politicians in my state to attempt to overcome the communist takeover and to get us back to where basically, we can make money again doing shit with resources here, which all the Wefonians want to shut down. And it's really interesting, all of this stuff, right? Some of the moves around here are revealing, all right? So, but you have to really know the area in order to understand what it's being revealed. So I've got some timberland, small holding, 50 acres, over off of Hood Canal. And Hood Canal, I'm on the east side of the canal. And Hood Canal is a fjord. And what basically happened at some point was that the eastern foothills of the Olympic mountain range ripped loose, and this fjord was created, this very deep fjord there. But the interesting part for us guys is that when these foothills ripped loose from the Olympic mountains, apparently some areas have been exposed that have silver and gold in them. And so over on the eastern side of the Olympic Mountains, we have a bunch of towns with interesting names like Silverdale, Gold Bar. There was Gold Nugget. That's a defunct town. They shut down. There was Goldendale, like Silverdale. There was Gold Valley, and a few more. And these are all clustered around my timberland property over in the Hood Canal area. And so there's a possibility I've got gold and silver on my acreage over there, especially since I have another resource that's not timberland, but is gravel. And so I have segregated, self-selecting, aggregating gravel in like 7 different grades, 7 different sizes. These are all glacial fill gravel, so it's all real clean. I mean, there's dirt around it, but you don't have to bust it up in order to make the rocks into gravel. They're just loose, just with dirt on them because of the nature of the glacial sediment. So it's really cool. It's nice to have the gravel there. I've got enough gravel on my 50 acres there that if we were to log and just start hauling off the gravel, we've got enough gravel to build out all of the roads that our local county there has anticipated that they will be building over these next 10 years. So, so potentially I could even log it and then start selling the gravel to the county. And that's not my goal, right? But the fact that it has this gravel also suggests that because of the nature of the glacier and so on, that we may have a potential that there's some silver and gold there. Not that I'm going to do anything about it other than, check it out here in a, mildly interested way at the moment, because I'm not motivated, right? I'm not trying to make more money, especially as the money itself is dying. Anyway, we are thinking now, all right, so we're now getting into the boom period of the cryptos. Not all of the cryptos are going to survive, though. In a minute, I'm going to shut this down and I'll pick it up again. I'm going to have to pull off and take care of some business here real quick. Anyway, so I'm expecting, Bitcoin will go over 50,000 in this next month or so. And at that point, I'm thinking of selling a few cryptos and purchasing another property myself. Not, in my case, it's not as a way to hedge dollars or anything and keep dollars safe, because I'm not taking dollars out of the bank in order to do this, because I run very lean. I try and keep as few dollars as I possibly can and keep everything else in some other form of an asset. But I wanted to have another property here to, if I could find, and I think I may have, if I could find a single-story house that would allow us to live comfortably while we're remodeling the one we're in. That would be a good investment in my way of thinking, because then I wouldn't have a year and a half of being super fucking stressed with people crawling around and hammering and all of that kind of thing, right? And so it'd be a decent kind of an investment for me to make, and hopefully we could get in a place that was, also in another recreation area. Anyway, so I'll pick this up in a few minutes. There's gonna be a bunch of these as I drive in.